A Day to Remember. Once upon a time, in a small, quiet town, there lived a father named Thomas and his young son, Leo. They lived in a very small house at the end of a long, dusty road. The house was old. The paint on the walls was peeling off, and the roof leaked when it rained. But inside, the house was always warm with love. Thomas was a good man. He worked very hard every day, but he did not make much money. His wife had passed away a few years ago, so it was just Thomas and Leo against the world. One cool afternoon in early spring, something exciting happened in their town. Leo was walking home from school. He was kicking a small stone along the path. Suddenly, he saw a splash of bright color on a wooden fence. He ran toward it. It was a poster, a very big, very colorful poster. It showed a giant tent with red and white stripes. It showed elephants dancing on big balls. It showed lions jumping through rings of fire. And in the center, there was a funny clown with a red nose and big shoes. At the top of the poster, in big yellow letters, it said, "The great circus is coming, one day only." Leo's eyes went wide. He felt his heart beat faster. He had never seen a circus. He had only heard stories about them. He grabbed the corner of the poster, but he could not take it. He memorized the date. It was exactly 1 month away. Then he looked at the bottom of the poster. It said, "Tickets, $2.50. Leo did the math in his head. 2 tickets meant $5. $5 was a lot of money for them. It was enough money to buy food for a whole week. Leo's shoulders dropped. He felt sad. He knew his father did not have $5 extra. He walked the rest of the way home slowly. When he opened the door, his father was sitting at the small wooden table. Thomas looked tired. His work clothes were dirty with dust. But when he saw Leo, he smiled. "Hello, Leo," Thomas said. "How was school?" Leo tried to smile, but his father knew him too well. Thomas saw that something was wrong. "What is it, son?" he asked. Leo told him about the poster. He described the elephants and the lions. He talked about the clowns and the music. He spoke fast, and his eyes shined with excitement. Then he stopped. He looked at his feet. "But it costs $5 for us to go, Papa. I know we don't have it." Thomas looked at his son. He saw the hope in Leo's eyes. He remembered his own childhood and how he never saw a circus. He stood up and walked to Leo. He put his large, rough hand on Leo's shoulder. $5, Thomas said quietly. He looked out the window. Then he looked back at Leo. "We have 1 month, Leo. 30 days. If we work extra hard, if we save every penny, maybe, just maybe, we can go." Leo looked up. "Really, Papa?" "Really," Thomas said. "But it will be hard work. Are you ready?" "Yes!" Leo shouted. And so the hard work began. The next morning, Thomas woke up before the sun. Usually he worked at a factory, but now he looked for extra jobs. Before he went to the factory, he went to the local market. He helped the farmers carry heavy boxes of vegetables. The boxes were full of potatoes and carrots. They were very heavy. Thomas's back hurt and his arms felt weak. But every time he carried a box, he thought of the circus. He thought of Leo's smile. The farmer gave him 25 cents. Thomas put the shiny coin in his pocket. He patted his pocket and smiled. Leo worked hard too. After school, he did not play with his friends. He went to the neighbors' houses. He knocked on their doors. "Hello," Leo said politely. "Do you need help in your garden? Do you need someone to sweep your porch?" An old lady named Mrs. Higgins lived down the street. She had a big garden full of weeds. "Yes, Leo," she said. "My back hurts today. Can you pull the weeds?" Leo nodded. He knelt on the ground. The dirt was cold. He pulled the weeds for 2 hours. His fingers got dirty. His knees were sore, but he did not stop. When he finished, Mrs. Higgins gave him 10 cents and a cookie. Leo ate the cookie, but he kept the 10 cents. Every night, Thomas and Leo met at the kitchen table. Thomas took a glass jar from the cupboard. It was an old pickle jar. They washed it until it was clear. "Ready?" Thomas asked. "Ready," Leo answered. Thomas emptied his pockets. Clink, clink, clink. The coins hit the bottom of the jar. Then Leo emptied his pockets. Clink. It was a small sound, but it was a happy sound. They watched the pile of copper and silver coins grow. The days turned into weeks. The work was very tiring. One day it rained very hard. Thomas had to deliver newspapers in the morning. He did not have a raincoat. He walked from house to house. The rain was cold and sharp. His clothes were wet. His shoes were full of water. He shivered. He wanted to go home and be warm, but he remembered the elephants. He remembered the lions. He kept walking. That evening he coughed a little. Leo made him hot tea. "Are you okay, Papa?" Leo asked. "I am fine," Thomas said. He put 50 cents into the jar. "Look, the jar is half full." Leo looked at the jar. It was heavy now. "We are getting closer," Leo whispered. They stopped buying sweet things. They ate simple food like soup and bread. They did not buy new shoes, even though Leo's shoes had a hole in the toe. They saved everything. Finally, the big day arrived. It was a Saturday. The sun was shining brightly. The birds were singing. It felt like the world was celebrating with them. Thomas and Leo woke up early. They were too excited to sleep. They went to the kitchen and took down the glass jar. They poured the coins onto the table. It made a loud crash. They counted the money together. $1, $2, Thomas counted slowly. Leo held his breath. $3, $4. There was a pile of small coins left. Thomas counted them carefully. 90 cents, 95, $5. They did it! They had exactly $5, not a penny more, not a penny less. Leo jumped up and down. "We're going to the circus! We're going to the circus!" Thomas laughed. It was a deep, happy laugh. "Go get dressed, son. Wear your best shirt." Thomas put on his Sunday suit. It was old and a little tight, but he brushed it until it looked clean. He polished his shoes. Leo wore his white shirt and combed his hair. They looked very handsome. Thomas put the heavy coins into his pocket. They walked out of the door. The town square was 3 miles the way. They walked hand in hand. The air smelled fresh, like flowers and grass. As they got closer to the town, they could hear music. It was loud and happy music. Pum-pa-pa-pum. It was the circus band. Then they smelled something delicious. "What is that smell?" Leo asked. "That is popcorn and sugar," Thomas said. They turned the corner, and there it was, the tent. It was huge. It was bigger than their house. It was bigger than the school. The red and white stripes shone in the sun. Flags were flying from the top. There were people everywhere. Leo squeezed his father's hand. "It's beautiful," he said. They walked toward the ticket booth. There was a long line of people. Everyone looked happy. There were families with mothers, fathers, and many children. The children held balloons. The mothers wore pretty dresses. Thomas and Leo stood at the end of the line. They waited. The line moved slowly. Thomas put his hand in his pocket. He held the coins tight. He wanted to make sure they were still there. They watched the people in front of them. A rich man bought 5 tickets. He laughed and threw a big bill on the counter. A young couple bought 2 tickets. They held hands and ran into the tent. Finally, it was their turn. They stood in front of the ticket window. The lady behind the glass looked tired. She wore a blue uniform. "How many?" she asked quickly. Thomas stood tall. He smiled proudly. "2 tickets, please. 1 for me and 1 for my son." He pulled his hand out of his pocket. He carefully placed the pile of coins on the counter. He stacked the quarters. He stacked the dimes. "Here is $5, Thomas said. The ticket lady looked at the coins. Then she looked at a sign next to the window. She pointed to it. "I am sorry, sir. The prices went up today. It is Saturday. Tickets are $3 each on weekends." Thomas froze. The smile fell from his face. $3? He whispered. "Yes," the lady said. $6 for 2 people. Thomas felt cold. The noise of the circus faded away. All he could hear was his own heart beating. Thump, thump, thump. He looked at the coins on the counter. $5. He looked at the sign. $6. They needed $1 more. He checked his pockets again. He turned them inside out. Nothing. Only a piece of string and some dust. He looked down at Leo. Leo was looking at the lady. He did not understand yet. He was still smiling. "Papa?" Leo asked. "Can we get the tickets now?" Thomas felt a pain in his chest. It was a sharp pain. It was the pain of a father who cannot give his son a dream. He worked so hard. They saved for a month. They skipped meals. They walked in the rain. And it was not enough. Thomas's lip trembled. He looked at the ticket lady. We only have $5. The lady sighed. She was not mean, but she was busy. "I cannot sell you tickets for $5. I am sorry. There are people waiting behind you." Thomas felt his face get hot. He felt ashamed. He felt like everyone was looking at him. He slowly reached out his hand to take the coins back. His hand was shaking. "Come, Leo," Thomas said, his voice cracking. We have to go." Leo looked confused. "Go? But Papa, the circus is here. We're here." "I know, son. I'm sorry." Thomas lowered his head. He could not look at his son's eyes. He began to pull Leo away from the window. Leo did not cry, but his face looked so sad. It broke Thomas's heart. Behind them in the line, there was a man. He was tall and wore a fine gray suit. He had worn-out clothes, but he was happy. He saw the excited boy. He saw the tired father counting the coins, and he heard the lady say, $6. The man in the suit looked at his own son, who was holding a big bag of popcorn. Then he looked back at Thomas. Thomas was just turning away. He took one step. Suddenly, the man in the suit dropped something. He threw a piece of paper on the ground. It was a $20 bill. It landed right near Thomas's foot. "Excuse me, sir," the man called out loudly. Thomas stopped. He turned around. He looked at the man in the suit. The man pointed at the ground. "Sir, you dropped this out of your pocket when you pulled out your coins." Thomas looked down. He saw the $20 bill lying in the dust. He looked back at the man. Thomas knew he did not drop that money. He never had $20 in his pocket. He knew the man knew it too. Thomas looked into the stranger's eyes. The stranger did not look arrogant. He did not look like he was giving charity. He looked kind. His eyes said, "Take it, for the boy." Thomas felt a lump in his throat. He wanted to say, "No, it is not mine," but then he felt Leo's small hand in his. He squeezed Leo's hand. Thomas slowly bent down. He picked up the bill. His fingers brushed the dust off the money. He stood up and looked at the man again. "Thank you, sir," Thomas said. His voice was thick with emotion. "Thank you very much." "You should be more careful," the man said with a warm smile. "Enjoy the show with your son." The man winked at Leo. Thomas turned back to the ticket window. He felt strong again. He placed the $20 bill on the counter. "2 tickets, please," Thomas said, loud and clear. The lady took the money. She gave him the tickets and his change. Thomas handed a ticket to Leo. Leo screamed with joy. "We got them! We got them!" They walked through the gate. The smell of sawdust and animals was strong. The music was loud. They found their seats near the front. The lights went down. A spotlight hit the center of the ring. The ringmaster walked out in a red coat and a tall black hat. "Ladies and gentlemen," the ringmaster shouted, "welcome to the greatest show on earth." Thomas did not watch the elephants. He did not watch the lions. He watched Leo. Leo's mouth was open. His eyes were wide and shining. He clapped his hands until they were red. He laughed at the clowns. He gasped at the trapeze artists flying in the air. He was completely happy. Thomas sat back in his seat. He felt the change in his pocket. He thought about the man in the line. He realized that the circus was wonderful, yes, but the kindness of a stranger was the real magic that day. As the show ended, Thomas put his arm around Leo. "Was it good, Papa?" Leo asked, his eyes sleepy but happy. "Yes, Leo," Thomas said. "It was the best day ever." They walked home under the stars. They were tired, but their hearts were full. They would never forget the elephants, and they would never forget the man who helped them save their dream.
Great work today. Keep going. Every lesson helps you improve your English. I'm excited to see you in the next video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more fun lessons. Keep learning and see you again soon.